Hi guys, welcome to PHP Web Development Basics. Let's move a step further to relate with HTML. When we talk about PHP, we need a markup language called HTML and CSS to actually make the website look appealing and dynamic. We're going to be injecting PHP into HTML, and I'll be showing you on how to actually make this work. PHP is basically developed for the web, and it relates well with other markup language, PHP, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Let's get ourselves started. I'm going to create a basic HTML structure where we're going to have the HTML tag, the header, the body, and also the footer. So let's work down together. We're going to first of all have the document type, which we're going to tell the browser that is going to actually print it out to notify that we are actually handling a document type web application. After, we're going to have our HTML tag. Let's do this fast as we can, and this is actually going to sit down below, and we're going to have the head, which we can just pass in or integrating as PHP, HTML. Let that be the header, and we're going to have our style right inside there, but let's keep that for now. Afterwards, we get to have the body. And let's take away all the white spaces. Let's get to have the footer. So that's just it. Give some white spaces. So we have the head, the body, the footer. This is the basic structure of any HTML file. Save that right there, and let's try to integrate PHP into HTML. Right there in the body, we'll want to introduce our first PHP tag. And for you to introduce PHP right inside HTML, you must start up with the opening PHP tag and then also the closing PHP tag. We're going to have it this way: PHP. You can have something of this nature, and you have the closing PHP tag. So right inside there, we can just do something. Since we've known how to declare our variable, let's declare the first variable called name, which we're going to give it the name called Bamdele. And let's echo out something right there to the console or to the web browser. We're going to type in echo. Let's call this welcome with a variable name, something of this nature, and right there. So we have the header and the body and the footer. Right there in the header, we need to wrap this around the title tag. So we're going to have this called title because we're actually making this mimic the title. Let's have it done this way. Right there. That will be the title. Let's save out and let's try to look at this up in the browser. Now we're going to point to the locals, PHP basic, the PHP HTML, that's the name of the file. So we're going to run this. We have welcome Bamdele. Fine, cool. Let's extend more on what we have right here. For example, we're going to add CSS to this so that we're going to make styling applicable right there in the application. So let's just include a little styling into this particular pieces. So we're going to actually wrap around here. First of all, we need the header, which we're going to cut out, paste it at the end of the PHP tag, and we also need to specify this as the h1 header tag. Call that out there, specify it there too. So with this now, we can have our pointer to the CSS. So right there in the head, we're going to actually create a style which points down to CSS. Call that style, and we can easily start up the styling. Now let's give a text align, center, and the background color of let's give it a black. And we're gonna have a color that's a text color, white, perfect. For the background black, and let's give a font width of bold, perfect. And we'll save that up, and let's get to look at what we have. Since we have our header declared, let's refresh to see what we have right there. Can you see that we have it's been styled to the center with the help of CSS, and we have a background on it, and it makes bold. You can see how CSS actually tweak up the title. So this is just how to integrate CSS, HTML, and even JavaScript with PHP. But let's focus more on PHP, which is the basis of today. For this, we can easily reconstruct this PHP tag. So let's try to make our name dynamic. If you notice, we just had coded the name randomly. Let's try to make it dynamic using PHP. We'll go back to the URL. Now we'll be pointing at the headers where we talk about key value pairs in probably JSON object notation. But the basics is just to replace a key with a dynamic value. So we're going to have our first key value pairs right there when we're going to make a query to the name, which is the identifier. Or let's say, let's have it something like this. If you've been around the web, you've been noticing something of this nature. Key value pairs, you have a key, and which is like an identifier, and your value is the value assigned to each key. Now the key here is going to be the name, while the value is unknown. So we're going to actually still leave that for now. So let's try to absorb these right there in our code in PHP. I will head back to my text editor, and I will have to replace this portion with the get. We have different web API calls where we talk about get, we talk about post, we have delete, we have put, we have patch. But we'll be using get at this moment to actually get the value, which is the key, and we're going to actually call this with a variable, a global variable called get, and we have our brackets, whereby we're going to point at the key, which is the name. So for that, the name, and close that right there, and we close up. So save that. So let's get back to the browser and try to lock in a name. Let's call it Wilson. Can you see that? We are welcome Wilson. Let's change that to Rebecca. Welcome Rebecca. Dynamically, we can pass in our values into a key, and you can actually display that using PHP. Let's get to make our code, let's sanitize it and make it look more. Yeah, security is key. We need to sanitize our code. Let me show you something. Probably a user or a malicious user wants to actually inject this value. You can actually do something of this nature. href equals trying to point this out to a link. Say google.com. Close the right there. and have something of this nature, Can you notice that this is has actually turned to a link, and this can be very dangerous, So security is key. So I'm going to teach you something. Now, if you click on it, it's easily clickable, and it points down to a Google website, which is called HTML special characters, which we're going to actually use to sanitize our values, So I'm going to actually show you how to do that. So I'm actually going to introduce this function, HTML special characters, which will enclose the get call. Let's close that right there. So we'll save, and let's get to look at the browser and see. Probably we're still going to maintain this malicious link. So you refresh. Can you notice this? So it's not it can be linked to other places. So that means any injection would actually turn to a mere text. It's not usable. So that's just part of the essence of security when you're dealing with values, or when you're dealing with forms, when you're getting data from users. So catch me up in the next tutorial where we'll be talking more about PHP. We have a lot to learn when it comes to PHP integrating with HTML, creating a mind-blowing web application. Don't go anywhere. Stick by to this playlist. Have a lovely time. Bye-bye.